performer, ladies and gentlemen. I have known for years and years. And it's really, really cool. When she was starting out doing comedy and a student at Emerson College, uh, a really cool TV show was coming out of our place. A bunch of performers created a television show, Brendan Small mostly, and got the cast from our comedy club. And if you don't remember, it was called Home Movies, and that was the yeah, that was the thing. If you have a chance, look it up online. It was really, really terrific. And if you're trying to figure out which episode to look up anyone that has Clarice in it, because that's our next guest. She's been on Comedy Central's Premium Blend. She played Clarice on Home Movies. She's been in Boston, lived in New York City, and is now up here teaching comedy at Emerson, among other things, to tell us all about her and her life. Ms. Val Kappa.
Hey, thank you, Rick. Hey, everybody. Yeah, so my name is Val Kappa. I think I actually know a majority of you here, but for those of you who don't know me, I'm a 42-year-old woman, and a lot of people hate the milestones, the age milestones, but I've always loved them. I love turning 16. I love turning 21. I love turning 30. I love turning 40. And nothing's changed since I've entered my 40s, except the way my Fitbit views my cardio health. In my 30s, my Fitbit called my cardio health average. But then as soon as the clock struck midnight and I turned 40, Fitbit called my cardio health good/very good. Basically they lowered the bar for me. They're like, oh my God, you left the house today at age 42. Good/very good. Good/very good. Oh, isn't that adorable? So, that's something to be proud of. Another thing about me, if you don't know me, I chopped my hair off this summer. Everyone who knows me knows I did this, but if you don't know me, you might be shocked to find out that I used to have shoulder length hair. But the pandemic made me think, as it made me think like, oh, I think I want to go a little G.I. Jane. Now that the pandemic is over, now that the salons are open, so I made an appointment with my stylist. I see this great guy named Josh at Judy Jetson's, and he like chopped it right off, and it was a lot of fun. But since I've chopped off, it's been a few months, and it grows back. I've ordered men's clippers. If you know what I'm talking about, these are men's clippers. Okay, you can put little. I ordered a pair, and like they have like little rainbow attachments. So sometimes, like after a long day, I come home and I'll just like start shaving the back of my head, and it's so satisfying. Just after a long day, you come home and you're just like, and it makes you feel independent and self-sufficient, and it's just wonderful. But I'm getting worried that I'm going to get really delusional about my abilities of cutting hair, and then I'm just going to like one day, like after a long day, come home and give myself a hawk. And it's nothing wrong with having a mohawk. I see a lot of people and they look stunning, but I am not someone who will look stunning with the mohawks. I'm scared there's going to be one day that I get carried away with this. And I live with my girlfriend, and I've even like tested this on her. I gave her an undercut. I don't know if you know what this is. It's like maybe if you have hair to maybe down to here in the back, you lift it up and then you shave this part, but then your hair can come back over it. So it's hidden. So it's like a hidden punk hairdo. No one knows except yourself. And she let me do this, and I didn't like ruin her hair or anything. So I'm worried that like not only will I give myself a mohawk, but I'll start going up to people and be like, oh, you wanna undercut? You want like half your head shaved off? I have this. I can do that. That's a thing I do now. So that's another thing that's about me, everyone, if you don't know me. In the summer I teach teenagers comedy writing at Emerson College, and this year it was all online. We taught on Zoom and discussion boards, and I think that in the Zoom format, storytelling works better than jokes. So for the rest of my time, I'm just going to tell you some stories, and one of them is one that people who know me have seen me tell before, but those who haven't probably don't. And it's about how all my life I've had a hole in my ear. And I know you're like, Val, we all have holes in our ear. That's how we hear. But that's not the kind of hole I'm talking about. I have this other hole that's like right about here on my ear. It looks like an ear piercing hole. and it looks like it's going right into my head. And I've had it my entire life. I've never known what it was. Then when I was a teenager, I went to a dermatologist and I was like, hey, I have this hole in my ear. What is it? What's going on? And he looked at it and he was like, yeah, it's probably just a scar. And I was like, I don't think so, buddy. I just silently lived with it for many, many years and moved on with my life. But I met my girlfriend 6 years ago. That's how long we've been together. And on our first date, I told her, I was like, hey, I have this hole in my ear, because I'm really good at romancing. I was like, yeah, I have this hole in my ear and I don't know what the hell's going on. And she was like, well, why don't we just Google it? And I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I never thought about this my entire life, to Google it. But she's smart. She's a psychologist. So, she uses her noggin. So we sat down on our first date and Googled it. And it turns out it's a thing. This hole in my ear is called a preauricular sinus. It's like this thing. It's a birth defect that 1% of the human population has. And I went even further, and it turns out there's a Facebook group devoted to it. It's like all these people, they've all found one another, and they're all delusional, out of their mind. They all think they're psychic and they have special powers. And they just all found one another, and they've come together on Facebook, and I haven't joined the group, but I have to admit, sometimes I peek in to see what my people are up to. And one time I looked in, and this person posted, and they said, I'm really glad I found you guys. Everyone in my family has this hole in our ear. The gift runs deep. The gift runs deep. It's like, okay, I don't. Okay, and I don't think I have special powers, or that I'm a psychic, but I'm glad I have answers now. And I was telling my primary care doctor about it at my yearly physical. I was like, yeah, I have this hole in my ear, and it's called a preauricular sinus. It's a thing. And she was like, huh. Can I see? And I was like, yeah, come on in, and I showed her, and she was like, you know what you should do? You should talk about this in your stand-up. And I was like, done. Because I only take comedy career advice from people in the medical fields. My primary care doctor and my girlfriend, that's it. No one else. But my primary care doctor isn't even a primary care doctor. She stopped being one, but now we're Facebook friends. That's where we're at now. So I check in with her. I'll be like, oh, I told the hole in my ear story. It went well. And she'd be like, oh, awesome. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. That's another little tidbit about me. I have a hole in my ear, and I could have psychic powers, but if so, I guess I haven't tapped into it yet. Gotta make it happen. Another story I want to tell you is one that only people who knew me as a child would know. And it goes along with this picture here. This is a picture of a hot air balloon. I took this when I was 6 years old in 1986 in Deerfield, New Hampshire, which is a very small town in New Hampshire. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's such a small town. And I was reminiscing about it the other day, and I Googled Deerfield, and they had their own website. And there was a section on the website called Things to Do. And I clicked on it, and it said no results found. Because there's nothing to do in Deerfield. It's that kind of small town. It's the kind of town where the kids have to be bused to the next town to go to school. And it's just, there's like one store, and then there's a Deerfield fair where they bring the horses in and stuff, and they call it exciting, but that's Deerfield. So every summer, me and my family would go there and to this house on a pond. And every year I would bring my Fisher-Price camera. I'm probably dating myself here, because like most people in my generation had this. The Fisher-Price camera was this cheap blue camera that had a yellow advance on the bottom to advance the film. And it had a yellow push button on the top to take the picture, and this like huge flash on the top that made it look like very, pro. And it was a cheap camera, but it worked well. And most kids got one for Christmas or on their birthday. Most kids had one. I had one, and I loved it. Like I considered it my press pass, and I felt like I was a member of the Associated Press when I wore this thing. And I of course brought it to New Hampshire that summer, and I always just was waiting to take a wonderful picture of something. You know, all I ever got was a picture of a chipmunk or a squirrel or like a pile of leaves. You know, I was just like, oh, I need something awesome to just like, you know, frame it. And then one night my wish came true. Me and my family were in our house and I heard this loud noise outside. It sounded like a lion was roaring. And then I heard our neighbors from across the street yell, "Oh shit." You know, then I heard the loud, like a lion roar again. And then I heard my neighbors say, "Oh fuck." And then the lion roared again. I was like, oh man, I think the stars are colliding tonight. I got to go outside, you know? So that night I was wearing my nightgown and a General Electric baseball cap because my dad worked at GE and he gave me a cap and I thought that was cool when I was a little kid. And I went outside with my Fisher Price camera and I was like, yeah, this is it. You know, there's something good is going to happen here. It's either going to kill me or it's going to be something amazing. And I went out and it was literally just a hot air balloon falling from the sky. And that's what the roaring noise was. It's like, I don't know if you've ever seen a hot air balloon in person, but it's magnificent. And it's just like, it has this torch inside and it flares up and that's what causes it to fly. But there was something wrong with the torch on this thing and it was just slowly falling into the pond. And so that's when my neighbors were saying, "Oh shit," and "Oh fuck." And that's why they were continuing to yell, "Oh shit," and "Oh fuck." You know, and my neighbors, they were day drinkers. So they always were carrying a Bud Light and they had them and they were, you know, but they weren't, you know, they had stopped sipping, you know, because it was like pretty intense. And then finally, like the hot air balloon fell into the pond and you could see people all around the pond, like canoeing, trying to help there were two people in it. And then my father came out, my whole family, and we like took the station wagon to the other side of the pond so we could see what was going on. I brought my camera, but I couldn't take any more pictures because it got dark. And I tried, then the people got out of the balloon and got to shore and they were fine. And then it was like, you don't even know what happened. Like, were they drunk? Did they steal it? I don't know, but they just got out. They got out like it was nothing. They were just like, you know, then they just got out. And then people just started clapping. And then my father was like, "Okay, kids, let's get the hell out of here." And we got on the station wagon and went home. But I did get this one dark picture of the hot air balloon and my dad like framed it and he keeps it at my parents' house and they let me borrow it to do this. And this is like a story I told when I was 6 years old to like 16 because nothing interesting had happened in my life, nothing. So whenever I met someone new, I'd be like, "Hey, my name is Val. A hot air balloon fell from the sky last summer. What have you done with your life?" You know, and that was like how I met people when I was younger. And then finally when I turned 16, other things started to happen. So the air balloon story kind of went into the back window. But during the pandemic, it's got me thinking. I like just, you know, had a lot of time to think. And I was like, oh man, whatever happened to that hot air balloon picture and that story I used to tell as a 6-year-old? And I was like, I got to bring this back as an adult now and show people the picture from my parents' house and keep telling this. Because what else am I going to do in a pandemic? that's what I wanted to do tonight. I figured, like, what better place to tell this than Zoom? What better place to push my hot air balloon story than that? And I have to tell you, when me and my family got back to our Deerfield house, you know how I said like our neighbors were day drinkers and they always had Bud Lights? One of the Bud Lights was on the ground, like unfinished, because that's how big of an event it was. They had dropped their Bud Light. It was like, oh no, I'm putting this down to see what's going on. Like that's just to give you an idea of what a big deal this was. So just saying, it's a story to tell of generations. So that's my hot air balloon story. But other things I have, there's a few people here who are in school with me because all of us are pursuing an MBA degree. You know, a lot of people have different midlife crises. Some people go skydiving or climb a mountain, but I decided to pursue an MBA later in life. And I enjoy it. I'm doing this part-time and online, one course per semester. So it's easier to pay for that way. I just put each course on my credit card and I can afford to pay that off. But I've noticed I'm a little bit different than the other people in the program. They all seem to be very excited about earning their degree. I, on the other hand, am very excited about racking up rewards points on my credit card. it's a go. And I think it's going pretty good with that. I think I always love on online classes, they like on the first week, everyone introduces themselves. And it's my favorite part of every class. I love to see like where everyone's coming from, what their background is. I just think it's so interesting. And sometimes it's a little bit intimidating, you know, because sometimes people are like, hello, everyone. I'm the general surgeon in my hospital, and I'm just doing this MBA to break out into more of a leadership role. Glad to be here. You know, and they get to me and I'm like, hey, everyone, I'm a stand-up comic. And I'm going to talk about a hot air balloon tonight. Glad to be here too. Everyone's like, okay. But that's like my favorite part every time. It's just like the first week. It's always really interesting because people come from all over and are just different places, and it's always cool. I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one who's assigned to get a degree later in life. It's like basically everybody is. But there's other things I wanted to tell you, and one of them is that I live with my girlfriend because I'm a lesbian. They often do that. Move in together. The rumors are true. And me and my girlfriend are two very different people. Like this morning we woke up and she was like, Val, I had this amazing dream last night. I had a dream that I was sitting on a cloud in the sky and this unicorn came flying towards me and handed me a cup of rainbow. What did you dream about last night, Val? And my dream wasn't as extraordinary as hers. I was just like, last night I had a dream that you got up to use the bathroom. And I had the whole bed to myself. That's the dream that I had. So Brett, I see your face on the video. Does that mean I should get off?
Whenever you
Are
like.
you supposed to give me a hand signal? I already forgot the system. Because I've seen you going like this before. Does that mean it's time?
Whenever you're ready.
Now. Does that mean it's time?
What
was that?
Yeah. We'll wrap up because we're about. We try to keep it to about an hour. Hey,
okay. How long have I been up here for? An hour?
1 hour. Thank you so much.
Now it's been 2 hours. Shut the fuck up. Enough about the balloon.
You should have opened with the balloon. A couple things.
I know I should have. No, let me say bye.
Oh, okay.
Woo! Bye, everyone. Thank you. It was delightful.
Thank you so much. And you know, I've got one too. Just be very careful. Be very careful. You get used to doing that, and you just go nuts.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I made the mistake of trying to cut my own bangs. Just don't do that.
Oh, that's how it all starts.
You're on a slippery slope, young lady. Thank you so much, and I'm glad you're getting an MBA because then you can help us.
Okay.
It must be kind of cool to like go in for the MBA, putting it on your credit card, and having the first class be like, "Don't use credit cards; the percentages are off." Oh, I already failed. A couple quick things before we adjourn. We're doing the Comedy Studio, so we're doing